Hello and welcome to the Can't Believe podcast. My name is Dan Rolinson and I'm your host for this afternoon show, joined by John Townley, fresh from the Tottenham Hotspur Airport. John, how was your journey?
Yeah, really good, mate. It was, wow. I've been kind of struggling to piece it together this morning, even still. It was just a 2-1, and Villa won a lot of games, so it was just another win, but just felt different yesterday. I was, for those 30 minutes from, as soon as Watkins scored on the hour mark up until 90 minutes, I was a state in the press box. I really was. I'm not very good to sit next to. The reporters who sit next to me all know that as well. I do get a bit emotional still, even though it's the job and whatever. But
do you celebrate?
No, you can't celebrate. That's unprofessional celebrating. I say I don't celebrate. You give it a bit of a fist bump, and it's obviously a very large stadium, so you can get away with doing some things. But just wow. I'm still kind of working on adrenaline at the moment. I just didn't have much sleep, and I don't want to have much sleep. You want to kind of make the most of it, and it just felt like a massive win. We came into the game. This isn't answering your question about the airport, by the way. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but we came into the game thinking, Villa can win this, can't they? You look at the team that came out for Tottenham. I don't think they had a centre-back on the team sheet, and I was even more confident then. I thought, Villa can win this 2-0. They can come away and have a massive 3 points. And the way the game was going, it wasn't going in that way, especially in the first half. To kind of feel that emotion of having, not having your best performance, but then coming away with the win against a team who I think will be up there. Tottenham kind of got more respect from me in that game than what I think I would have given them previously, if that makes sense, because I still think they played very well with a very, very depleted team. So I'm buzzing, mate. Just fantastic win. I haven't felt like that probably since I cried when Bertrand Traore scored against Leicester.
I should clarify for those that didn't watch the Inside Bodymore show, when I referenced Tottenham being an airport, that's not a disrespectful thing, although it does sound like it. No. You said that the new shiny stadium reminded you of an airport for some reason. Obviously, you've been there now, you've experienced it. Did it live up to that?
It's a fantastic stadium. I mean, they spent, I don't know how much it was it like £1 billion or something? So it was always going to be good, but crazy. Like, you'd think Elon Musk built it on Mars or something. It's, Villa Park's my favourite stadium, and I don't think that'll ever change because it's just so traditional, 4 separate stands. I know that's going to change quite soon. But it's got so much heritage and whatever with it, whereas Tottenham's is very new, and it's very reminds me of Wembley because it's got that bowl feel to it, and it kind of keeps the atmosphere within the stadium still. So it's a very good ground. But it's like a small Wembley, I suppose. Very modern. All the facilities are top notch, and I didn't go in the concourse or anything, but I presume that they wouldn't be having any complaints from supporters about that stuff. But it was a great experience to go there, and as I say, even better just to win that stadium 2 years in a row now. Fantastic afternoon in North London.
I'm trying to get the airport thing going by. You've arrived back in Birmingham, you landed with 3 points in the departure lounge or something. I can't really make it work. There was a line in there somewhere. Just an unbelievable win, isn't it? I'm still with you, kind of like buzzing off the adrenaline of what just happened there, because as you say, the first half, I was fully prepared yesterday as we were recording this. It was my birthday. Thanks to everyone who left lovely comments, by the way. I thought if we lose, I probably can get away with not doing the podcast because I can just say, we'll just do it on Monday. And the way the first half was going, I thought, this is not how I thought this was going to play out. When I saw the Spurs team sheet, I thought exactly the same as you. Wow, that team is depleted. We can really get at these. And that's not how the game went for the first half. And we were lucky to be in at 1-1 at half time, as I said yesterday. The fact that we went on to win in the way we did it in the end was like, okay, I've got to do a podcast. I've got to jump on. Got Neil on with me. I made an error on the thumbnail. My mic wasn't plugged in for the first 5 minutes. It was a total mess, to be honest. But we had to buzz off the vibes of we've actually just beat a good team. It feels two ways to me. It's this impressive thing that Villa have done, and we should be proud of it and happy with it, and we are. But also that's what Villa do. It's a very strange feeling.
Yeah. It is a weird feeling. I'm thinking to myself, everyone kind of, sorry, not everyone puts his favourites. We weren't even the bookies' favourites, but I think a lot of Villa fans were very hopeful, should we say, going to Tottenham. And I said in the previous podcast, I wouldn't take a draw. And I still stuck by that, even when Spurs scored, because I just thought this is a game that's so manic and bizarre. There's no control on it. You don't know what's going to happen. But it makes it all the sweeter, doesn't it, when Villa, we had to suffer so much in that game. It was probably 35 to 40 minutes of the first half that we were on the back foot, really. I know we had a few chances ourselves, and then obviously the second half for 30 minutes after Watkins scored as well. So for I don't know, about a good hour. I think everyone was just a bit of an emotional wreck, to be honest, because we just knew how much that win, is going to help us in the course of the season. That 3 points, yes, Villa, earned it in a certain way, but, let's not kid ourselves. We probably didn't deserve to win that game. Not that matters. I'm not saying it does, but that's the 3 points where it's almost like a bonus now. Tottenham are almost 3 points down and Villa 3 points up in a game that really could have gone any other way. Yeah. Tottenham could have been 2-0 up in the first half, and I think that would probably be lights out for Villa, although we didn't give up in the game anyway. But it's a whole nother, complex coming down from 2 goals. Who knows what would have happened, for example, in the Liverpool game when I think we were 1-0 down and we had a couple of half chances, and we didn't take them. Liverpool win 3-0 in the end. Similar to the Newcastle game as well, I suppose, in some ways. We didn't take our chance when Matt Cash should have, I think, levelled it up. Didn't happen, and we'd go and lose 5-1. So these are the fine margins at the top level. And Villa know this, and it's just nice to be on the other end of it this time, especially away from home, especially away against the team who, as I said, they've earned more respect for me, to be fair now. Tottenham, I think they will be up there because of the way that they played. If they added a Van der Ven, Romero, Maddison, other players as well, that would have been a very difficult game to play in. And to be honest with you, I don't think many teams will beat Tottenham this season at their stadium when they've got 11 men, put it that way. Obviously, the Chelsea game was a complete, not a write-off because 3 points is 3 points for them, but they played against 9 men, didn't they? And Spurs' line was so high, it was almost, suicidal. But I think Ange maybe changed a few things yesterday. I don't think their line was as high as what it had been. I think they probably showed a bit more respect to Villa, to be fair. But yeah, I'll probably go on record so I don't think Spurs will lose at home playing with 11 men apart from Villa. I think that's relatively likely. We probably gave them one of their tougher games in terms of obviously we've won the game, but they're always going to have chances and whatnot. It's just nice to see that we had to suffer and we get out with 3 points. Though it's just something that I haven't seen Villa do. We've seen Villa do a lot of things under Emery. Don't get me wrong, but that just felt like a massive win, and especially as it takes you into the top 4, I suppose, as well.
I think Spurs played differently than people probably expected as well, with Son, Johnson, and Gill as a front 3. Kulusevski playing more centrally as an 8, I suppose. That's probably something that most people wouldn't have expected, and I thought it was probably difficult for Villa to prepare for that game with the amount of suspensions and injuries that they had. What lineup Spurs were going to play was one thing. How they're going to play with the ball, how high they're going to play is a totally different thing. And I don't think people have been prepared for Gill, Johnson and Son as a front 3 and Kulusevski slightly deeper and slightly central. That's not how I thought it would go. So I almost felt maybe for the first 15, 20 minutes or so that Villa were just trying to work things out on the fly. And I always wanted to give Villa credit in a way that, they're not playing badly because we're bad. It's just we're trying to adapt to Spurs doing something differently. Spurs could have been 2 up at half-time, 3 up at half-time. It could have been 3-1 or something like that. And the game does feel like it's gone by that point. To go in even at 1-0, I'd have been semi okay with that. To go in at 1-1 and scoring just on the break as well, that changed the game.
It did, yeah. There wasn't one reason why Villa, win that game. There was 6 or 7, and it felt like it was almost like a domino effect. It was Emi Martinez, you have one of the best, or if not the best goalkeeper in the world, making some top saves. That allows Douglas Luiz to have the moment to produce a bit of quality, which he does. Torres puts in the back of the net. So those 2 things already lined up. And then in the second half, you have Emery, one of the best tacticians in the world, who makes key changes at half time. It was like we needed 6 or 7 things to happen in a row for us to win the game, if that makes sense. But that's not luck. That's just having a good team, having a good manager, and being a bloody good Premier League team. Do you know what I mean? This is just what the top teams do. They go away from home and they suffer, but then they get out of it and they win.
Yeah,
that's a good team. One half of me is wanting to say something like, Villa got away with one, and next time they're going to have to play much better. But I think we're at the stage now where we know that Villa are good, and then they will improve, and there's ways to win games that we don't have to play the same way every time to win 3 points. Villa, over the course of 38 games, are second in the table or third in the table on goal difference with Arsenal. I don't feel the need to say something like, Matty Cash didn't have a good first half and that weren't good enough and whatever, because these things happen, and we can bring a player off the bench like Tielemans and Bailey who can then change the complexion of how we play in the second half. We're just a good team, and we've gone away to Tottenham, and again we've suffered. We've come out of it, and it feels a bit alien, but I'm trying to kind of get in the kind of the winner's mentality here and be like, you know what, don't matter, we've won, and that's the be all and end all. And yes, away to Bournemouth next week, we're going to have to play in a very different way, And that's a game where we do have to control the game, you know, and come out with 3 points again, of course, hopefully. But against Tottenham, Emery loves to control the match and stuff, but I think it was probably the first press conference where he didn't even say the word control, because I just don't think you can control that particular game. As you say, what changes Tottenham, you know, had to make, which makes it even more difficult to even prepare for that match, but also the kind of players that they were playing in different roles. So it was a very attacking lineup, a very offensive team. In a way, that almost helped him, because they were suffocating Villa, weren't they? Villa couldn't build up to move into the final third very often, yet they still created chances. And that's why I was thinking, well, this Tottenham team will create, but they'll also give up chances as well. And it was just one of those days where Ollie Watkins is putting the ball in the back of the net. You know, he could have had a hat-trick on another day in terms of the VAR decision was so marginal for offside, and he obviously scored, but then I think Ben Davies cleared one off the line as well. You know, I don't want to say that he took them all, but he kind of did, you know. You know what I mean? But then on another day, Watkins might miss the chances, but then this time he did score them. So it was just one of those days, where Villa were very clinical and efficient in front of goal and what they made. But also, as I say, they showed another way that I think they showed last season, to be fair, in games against like Chelsea, where they were blocking balls, putting their bodies on the line. And Emi Martinez, I think he made 6 saves in all, but I think all 6 were top saves as well. We didn't just block them. He was clutching the ball out of the top corner, stuff like that. And
unbelievable.
Wow, what a goalkeeper.
Villa just did their thing. Just came out, was like, we're going to score now. And that's it. And we've won the game. We go home and happy days. It's just it's unusual, I guess. I still feel like a year into Emery that, like you said before, we're just good now. So that's strange. We're going to lose games here and there, and we'll get caught, and we'll think, that was an avoidable goal, and Conte hadn't just done this there, and little things like that will happen. But the evidence shows us over the course of a season or the course of a calendar year, Villa are very good. Yeah,
and this is why I never get too low with the lows. You can always get too high with the highs because it's an emotional game, and Villa have won. We're going to be happy. You know, when we lose to Forest away, those things happen. When Ollie Watkins hits the post in the last kick of the game against Wolves, those things happen. You know, over the course of a season, as you say, then Villa will finish exactly probably, that doesn't make sense. Villa will be finishing where they deserve to finish, and that will, at the moment, be in the top 5, because that's the rate we're going at. We have a bit of daylight between, you know, United and Newcastle, teams like those, and if we finish above those 2 teams, we're in the top 5, because no one's finishing above them that isn't us. It's not going to be a Chelsea or a Brighton or West Ham, I don't think. I honestly think that the Villa players right now are just looking, or they looked at Tottenham away, they're looking at Man City at home and Arsenal at home, and they're relishing that. Like, honestly, they must be feeling like, well, we know that we're this good, and no one's really given us all the credit so far. It was, you know, even after the Tottenham game, I don't know what the conversations were really, but I highly doubt that they were much to do with Villa, and that we've moved into the top 4. No. And now that we're 2 points ahead of Tottenham, Villa players will be looking at Man City and Arsenal and thinking, that's prime time for us. We're going to, you know, put everything into those games and prove why we're, I know you might talk about it later, title contenders. We're not title contenders, in my opinion, but those players want to compete against the very best, and we'll just see where it takes us in the next few weeks. That's the kind of the message. But we're in a fantastic position, and to have those games coming up, you know, brilliant. Bournemouth away though next week, I don't doubt that will be a game that, again, will be difficult, because again, I haven't seen us play away from home kind of like a 10 out of 10 as we did last season for a few matches. Hopefully that's Bournemouth, and if it is, then brilliant. That's that would be a fantastic return. 6 points out of 6, of course, maximum points, but against 2 teams who pose very different problems, play very different ways. And again, our away form has been very poor up until now, hasn't it? So 3 really important games coming up, and was it 9 games, I think, until the new year now as well in all competitions. So no let up, but plenty of opportunities to win points.
Yeah, we are going to look at the bigger picture later in the show, but for now it's full focus on Thursday. The Legia Warsaw game is huge at Villa Park on this Thursday, and then on Sunday it's a trip to Bournemouth as well, which again, a place we've not fared too greatly over the last couple of years. That's all the focus is at the moment. We'll talk about Man City and Arsenal next Monday on the Monday show, but like I said, we will touch on it a little bit later. There's some questions from the audience that I want to insert into the show here. This will take us in all manner of different directions, and we'll come back to look at the Premier League table and the title race towards the end of the show. I want to start with one from Ricardo, which I replied to him last night when he tweeted me this and said, I think this is a really good point, and it's something I've not really thought about, but I think it's spot on, and I'm keen to see your thoughts on it, John. He says, do you think that the linos not flagging for offsides that are often clearly offside affect how people, not least commentators, see a game? so much of the action at Villa's goal ends up being deemed irrelevant via a ridiculously late flag after the attack or a VAR ruling. He said, it first occurred to me in the Forest game the other week when the commentators were unable to understand 95% of any danger Forest caused was actually via dead play, so to speak. And this is something I've not really thought about, because we come out of that game going, Spurs had chances in the first half. Spurs had chances to start that game. They could have damaged us. 3 of Sons were offside. And I don't know whether they were marginal or whatever. And I widen this to not just the Spurs game and to any game this season. If you think, they've had chances there, but they could have been flagged at the halfway line and someone's ran through and shot and Martinez is saved, or that it's been ruled out or whatever. If that never happened and it was flagged at the halfway line, you don't come out of that game going, Spurs have had chances. But you kind of think, Son had 3 ruled out, so they must have been in it. But if they were flagged earlier and he doesn't even take the shot, you probably assess the game differently and you don't feel like Spurs have had chances, because they haven't really, because they've been ruled out.
Yeah, commentators, I mean, I obviously don't listen to them because I'm at the game, but so I don't know exactly what's been said, but I notice it from opposition fans who will say things like, Villa's lying, I can't, we're getting in so many times, all you've got to do is do this and stuff like that. Well, but Villa catch teams offside, I don't know, like an average of like 8 times a game or something. Like yesterday, I'm sure it would have been something similar. It is not good for your ticker though. Like, goodness me. Yeah, again, I'm watching it in a different angle in the stadium where I am. God, the amount of times, like the one where the ball bounced off the post and Son just tapped it in and I'm just falling back in my seat and then praying to God that I think it's Rob Jones, the ref, just puts up his arm and I'm just looking through the fans celebrating. It's horrible to deal with, but it gets results. And in other games where we basically, I don't know, I wouldn't say bamboozle, but we restrict, for example, what Forest were doing. I know we lost the game, but the amount of times where they would kind of run up to our high line and then don't know what to do, and then they knock it forward and player runs in on goal, scores, and it's offside. But it's like, well, that might alter a perception, but ultimately it's just good defending, and it's not a chance because it's offside. It's the rule. So yeah, I think it's a good point that Ricardo makes, and certainly it's something I haven't thought about, but I've definitely noticed from opposition fans kind of suggesting that Villa, and from pundits to be fair, you see sometimes people saying, Villa will get caught out against the good teams. I think I saw some quotes from Richard Dunn, I think it was, in the week saying that Tottenham will punish Villa's high line because it's like reckless and, top quality players will get in behind and whatever. And it didn't work.
Question from Kelvin, who says, after Cash's less than confident performance and his 4th booking, could having only one recognised right back be a concern?
Yeah, and it was in the summer as well, because, however which way you want to look at it, if Cash gets an injury, then that does hamper what we want to do, because that takes Konsa out of the central defence, which is a bad thing. Not because he's a poor right back, he's a good right back, I think, but he's one of the best centre backs in the league. Yeah. So that is my concern with that one. I think it probably depends on who we play against. Cash, the likelihood is he probably picks up a booking against Bournemouth, Man City or Arsenal. You just hope that he can play in either Man City or Arsenal, because I think we'll need him for those games. Whether he comes off and Bailey comes on, that's another thing. But in terms of starting the match, I think you need him to play in those matches, because we need a right back. And my only thing with that would be as well, can you play Bailey on the right and play Konsa right back? And I'm not sure if that dynamic quite works against those top teams. Again, I prefer Bailey coming off the bench and causing problems then. So yeah, it is a problem, and he will no doubt pick up another booking next month or whatever it may be before the 19 games. And it's just a problem for how Unai sets up. But I guess these things happen in a season. It's just a shame that it's a position that we are very light in. And Konsa can play there, but as I say, that makes an impact elsewhere in the team. And to be fair, I think Carlos actually played well yesterday. I think he's had a decent season, to be honest with you. Carlos obviously comes in last season, gets a bad injury, so we haven't really paid too much attention to him, but I think his positioning was really good yesterday. He won most of his duels. There's always going to be moments where, I don't know, you're worrying that either he's going to get turned because he's not particularly quick in transition, stuff like that. But yeah, I think he's a good player, and certainly a centre back that Villa would have. Put it this way, Villa would have a lot more problems, should we say, if they didn't have Carlos in their squad, put it that way. I know that sounds very stupid, but I think we kind of overlook that we have a player who's played in the Europa League, I think in the Champions League as well. And he's kind of just there. We kind of forget that we signed him last season and that he's probably only played, I don't know how many Premier League appearances he's got now, but it can't be many.
I want to say that Diego Carlos has probably not even played 10 games in the Premier League for us. I've a very quick Google. So just based off Wikipedia, which I know is not the be all and end all, he's made 15 appearances for Villa total. So obviously he's played some games in the Europa Conference League, so I'm probably right that he's played less than 10 in the Premier League, or maybe just about 10. So still very early doors for Diego Carlos, which feels strange to say considering he's been around for what feels like a little bit now. But obviously that massive injury, and he's all right. He's decent, Diego Carlos. Just because we mentioned the right hand side, this isn't a question that was sent to us, but something I spotted on social media from MC, and it was like a graphic of the lineup yesterday, or the starting lineup. And it was the ratings. Now, I don't know what site this is from. I know that it isn't Who Scored, because I recognise it. Might be SofaScore or somewhere like that, or FotMob. 6 players on the left, if you include Martinez, all got a rating above 7, which is a nice green colour. And all the players on the right got an orange rating, which is below 7. But is there anything in that? Was there something that happened yesterday that meant that Villa were more productive down that left-hand side than they were on the right? Was it just
I think it's certainly a massive part of the first half. I think Udogie was winning this battle with Cash. Villa struggled to occupy spaces behind Konsa. It wasn't Konsa's best game, and I don't want to kind of pin that on him because he didn't make mistakes. It's just that I think he was caught in no man's land quite a few times because himself and Cash kind of struggled to pick up between themselves. Gil, Udogie, there was different runs, and it was just one of those games where I think, in hindsight, Emery, Tottenham haven't played exactly like that with those players this season, really. So, in hindsight, if Emery had the luxury of watching that game and then playing them next week or something, I'm sure tactically we would have done something quite drastically different, especially to mark those right-hand channels. Fair play to Ange, noticed that and probably predicted that Villa would go with the 3 centre-backs, and that's why he probably went so offensive in the game. And on the left, almost all of our build-up was going down the left, weren't it? Especially in the first half. So Luca Dean, again, for me, played very well. Every time he was in a battle, he kind of came out with the ball every time. Played very well. Was it Luiz that was on the green side there, Dan, as well? I'm sure he should be. Luiz, again, just top-notch, brilliant player. And Torres, I think, played very well too. Again, there's going to be moments where Torres doesn't win every tackle and whatever, but considering how aggressive Spurs were in their press in our final third, the way he just moves the ball so easily, it's brilliant to watch, especially live as well. Because I always say you get a better perspective of how quick the game's moving, and just how good Torres is on the ball. So it definitely wasn't a coincidence that Villa were kind of their left-hand side was better rated, I suppose you'd say. But the changes at half-time were key for me. And then Villa get their goal, and then it's kind of back against the wall, but they suffered and come away with 3 points. So it doesn't really matter that some players might not have played their best game, like Diaby. Didn't really notice him apart from when he had a good chance at the end of the half. Watkins slipped him in. It probably could have been a better pass maybe, but ultimately it doesn't matter. This is why you have a squad. Some players underperform sometimes, and tactically it isn't spot on. But then Emery, the full match lasts 90 minutes, and you've got half time in the middle, so there's plenty of time to make alterations and changes. It's just nice that we have a squad that are capable of stepping up as well.
For those that are watching on YouTube, I apologise that I appear distracted with my phone that keeps buzzing with updates from the nursery. But John, I am listening to you. I promise I am listening to your answers. You just mentioned Diaby there, and there's a couple of questions on him, so we'll do those at the same time. From Mountain Man, who says, "What's going on with Diaby? Seems very flat lately. Where's the next level class we had early on?" And Pagey, who says, "Are we getting the best out of Moussa Diaby, and how do we get the best out of him? He's not quite on his game, and the sharpness on the ball is not there." How do you assess Diaby? Do you think he's gone off the ball a little bit, or is that a touch harsh?
I don't know. Like when he first joined, I feel like that was it. He hit the ground running, and he was getting goals and assists in most games, contributing, and that was the kind of feeling around Diaby. However, Villa got this player. I can't believe no one else signed him, but then he doesn't kind of contribute too much in the last couple of games or whatever it may be, and it kind of flips the other way of, oh, why is he so out of form? And I just think that's football. Next week against Bournemouth, he might score the winner and play out of his skin, and all of a sudden, do you know what I mean? Football changes quickly, and I don't think there's any one reason or tactical reason why Diaby isn't playing as well as what he was at the start of the season. I'm not worried at all by it. Him and Ollie Watkins have still got the second most chances created for each other. That's that. I think Diaby is still going to be in the team sheet every week. I don't know if he's carrying an injury potentially. That could be something. I don't know that for sure, but I noticed that John McGinn said that a couple of others were kind of carrying knocks and kind of going through the pain barrier as well. So I don't know if that's Diaby, but I know he went through the pain barrier against Wolves a few weeks ago or months ago now. So wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Yeah.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was about to interject there because I didn't think you'd have seen that yesterday. McGinn saying a couple of lads who've been through the paint barrier this afternoon. And I wondered whether Diaby was one of those. Maybe Cash is one of those who we just said didn't have a great game. There's always, well, there's possibly reasons why players don't have a great game besides that they haven't got the best of their opponent on the pitch or something. It could be a mental thing. It could be a physical injury. Whatever it is. It's not a lot of things going on for these players as well.
Yeah.
We probably tend to forget that when someone has a bad game, we just go, oh, bad footballer. It's not the case. There's probably a reason why, and
players
back to form soon.
Yeah, players going to dip in and dip out of form, but over the course of the season, if we do anything this season, which I think we will, he'll play a key part. And yeah,
absolutely. Let's get a nonsense question out of the way then from Ben. I'm pretty sure I recognise that Ben always sends a silly question, which I'm a fan of, and there wasn't any silly questions last week, so let's get this one in there. With it now less than a month until Christmas, if you could invite 4 players over for Christmas dinner, who are you picking and why? Now, my personal opinion towards Christmas is it should only ever really be talked about in December. It's only the 27th of November today, and I do always say I can never think about Christmas until my birthday's out of the way. November is my birthday month. I'll think about Christmas. No trees up in November, no nonsense like that. So really, we should be doing the Christmas dinner question next week. But as we've got it, we'll do it now. 4 players, past or present, I guess. Is there anyone who immediately jumps out to mind that you'd want around the Christmas dinner table?
John McGinn.
Yeah,
John McGinn wearing
the turkey.
Yeah, coming as the turkey in his turkey costume. Yeah, it gets stuck into a Christmas dinner as well. Did you see that thing? This is on a side note. Did you see that thing about Maddison saying he likes to control the?
Yeah, it's a bit like the main man at a Sunday roast. Yeah.
Oh man, that's just
strange.
I don't know what the context was with that, but I'm sure there was very little context. What question was he asked when he came out with that answer? I don't know.
John McGinn's definitely a good shout. I don't know. It's difficult. 4 players is quite a lot. Now, as a side note, we're having Christmas alone for the first time this year. Now that we've lived on our own for a couple of years, but obviously we've got the baby this year, his first Christmas. So rather than trying to please everyone and go to my half of the family or go to my partner's half of the family, we've said we're just going to stay at home at Christmas this year. So it's only going to be the 3 of us. So I don't really think I'd like to encroach on that by inviting any Villa players to it because it'd just be weird. So that's my cop-out answer, John, of why I'm not inviting any Villa players to mine. Can you think of anyone else to put you under pressure?
I feel like this answer could be easily interpreted as quite offensive to players that might have been carrying when they were playing for Villa. I don't know. I'm sure Gabby likes a Christmas dinner or liked a Christmas dinner. He looks in really good shape now, to be fair, these days. Better shape than when he was at Villa, I think. And who else? So we got John McGinn, we got Bonlahor. Yeah, that's my side of it. Dan, who have you got?
I'd like to invite Unai. Just like if I'm going to have something on Christmas Day, can I have a bit of like just chat to me about football?
Yeah, Unai, maybe just bring Gerrard along as well and just see what happens. See what notes he could take.
No. Steven Gerrard's
not welcome. Mate, I mean, if we're going off managers, I'm sure Brucey. Have you seen that video when he's asking, what did you say about the bacon? Or whatever it is.
How's the bacon, did you say?
How's the bacon, did you say?
That's the worst Geordie accent that probably ever existed.
You did send me this as I don't know what I was doing. I was on the train tapping some workout and I completely forgot. So we had preparation, but I've forgotten. You came out with a cop-out answer, so just leave it in the comment section. Who did we get in the end? Bruce, Emery, McGinn and Gabby.
I'm having Bruce. Let's have Dino, Emery, McGinn and Gabby. You'd have Brucey? I feel like he'd eat everything. All right, let's move on. It's just rude, isn't it, at this point? Ben, thanks for your question.
I did say that a minute ago. It's going to be offensive with it.
Right, back to football. Simon Davis, although to be fair, this is nonsense in my opinion. How concerned are we with the links for Douglas Luiz? If he doesn't go in January, I'm confident he won't. The vultures will certainly be circling in the summer. Are you worried about Douglas Luiz leaving at any point, John?
No, it would take a mammoth offer. I don't know, like a record January offer from presumably Arsenal. I know there's other clubs that are interested, but he ain't leaving unless massive offer would come in. Every player is available for transfer in terms of if you put up a certain amount of money, then that opens conversation. That's business. But no, not unless a massive offer comes in, which I don't think will, because Jesus, I mean, Arsenal spent a lot of money recently. I don't know, if you're paying, what do they pay for Havertz? 60, 70 million, something like that? Come on, you got to be paying at least 100 million in January. Even then, why would you accept it then? Because that same offer will just apply in the summer when the season's finished. And, why would you disrupt the campaign that Villa are having already? But yeah, The summer's a different question. Again, if Villa can get in the Champions League, remarkably, then obviously they have a lot more power in keeping their best players. But if not, there's always going to be a conversation around Luiz, who's a top player. But as I said previously, Villa have got all the power in these situations with all their players. It wouldn't surprise me if in the summer quite a few clubs try and come in for their players, because Villa are a club that have kind of come from nowhere, really. Championship 5 years ago, so something's going right, and it's not all down to Emery. His players have had to take things on board and performing very well. We have probably the best goalkeeper in the world, for example. There's a lot of clubs that would take Emi Martinez, Ollie Watkins, John McGinn. Sorry, not John McGinn. John McGinn ain't going nowhere. Douglas Luiz. But these players have all committed their futures. Do you know what I mean? So there'll be interest. But that's as far as it goes. As far as Villa will be concerned, especially in January. The summer's a different thing because, as I say, teams offer money for players, and it just depends how much money. But yeah, Villa won't want to entertain any offers.
Next question is from Sam, who says, you can only do one of these this season, so choose your priority. You can win the FA Cup, you can win the Europa Conference League, or you can qualify for the Champions League for next season. What do you go for? And I replied on Twitter and I said, easy. I'll tell you on the podcast.
Go on.
Champions League qualification. My reason for that is, and I know that the football is about winning trophies, and I saw somebody reply saying like Tottenham got in the Champions League and it wasn't enough for Harry Kane and he wanted to win something and he left and yada yada yada. And I get that. Our players will want to win trophies as well. My reasoning is probably a little bit more short term than anything, that because of the players we just mentioned, like Douglas Luiz, Martinez, Ollie Watkins, we want to hold on to them. As I've said before, you qualify for the Champions League, you reach a status that Villa are not currently at. You can attract different players, you can keep hold of players. And I feel like if you can only pick one, let's just say a trophy, Conference League, League Cup, FA Cup, one of those, or the Champions League, I feel like if you win a trophy, you're no closer to getting into the Champions League because you've won a trophy. It's a one-season thing and it's gone. I feel like if you get into the Champions League, that edges you closer to winning a trophy. Because if you get in the Champions League, you can get better players. So better players will get you closer to winning a trophy in the future. So the very short-term thing is I want to keep hold of our best players. I want to sign new, better players as well. And being a Champions League club gives you the pedigree to do that rather than just winning a trophy, which I fully agree is a big thing in football, and you should want to win as many things as possible. But the way football is now centred around the top four and the money it brings, for Villa to keep doing what they're doing and have the revenue, income streams, etc., Villa need to be a Champions League club. So that's why I've picked my answer.
That's my explanation of it as well. I think, I don't know, a couple of months ago, probably because I didn't think that Villa could get into the Champions League. And it's still obviously a long way to go yet in this season, but I was very much of the... I'd do anything to win the Conference League, not because I've said it before. I don't believe the Conference League is anything prestigious or anything like that. But Villa's next step is the Europa League, and also ticks the box of winning a trophy. Whether you think the Conference League is particularly, but yeah, it allows Villa to get to their next level. The Champions League, however, is a different platform altogether. That can set a club up for years of success, and as you say, Dan, if Villa get the Champions League this season, then the next season they can compete for silverware as well. The only thing I'd say is that obviously winning the Champions League would be bloody difficult, of course. That's like out. Why am I even saying that? Carabao Cup, FA Cup, are we going to take those ones seriously or not next season? I don't know. We obviously lost all three of the domestic cup games we played under Emery. So I feel like the Conference League is the easiest thing. It's not easy, but it's the easier cup that we could win, I think. But yeah, the Champions League gives you those revenue streams. It allows you to become one of those clubs. If you ask Nassif Sawiris, he'd say Champions League straight away. You look at Tottenham, they don't have the kind of wealthy owners like we have, if that makes sense. However, what they do have is they have a structure now. I go to the stadium yesterday. The training ground's one of the best in the world as well. But they are now set up for, if they want it, years and decades of just sustainable top 7 competing European football. That didn't make sense, but they're always in that conversation because they've got everything now. They've got the best stadium, top training facilities. They've got constant revenue streams as long as they keep making Europe, which they will do because they've got the players that will want to play for that club because it's in London, which is a big thing which Villa don't have. But Villa, by getting the Champions League, can build and build. It just gives you access to that. If we win the Conference League, then fantastic. I'm not... Jesus, that's brilliant. But yeah, the Champions League is just another level that is the access to the elite, basically.
Yeah.
Certain clubs make use of it, certain clubs don't, but I'm no doubt that we would. Like Newcastle, for example, them getting in the Champions League is massive for them. And to be honest with you, they're backed by, the people who they're backed by. So I feel like success is only going to happen anyway. It's kind of it's going to happen, lads. You may as well just prepare for it. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but when they lost to Brighton earlier in the season and the fans were like chanting and celebrating, and it was kind of seen as like, oh, great support. And it's like, yeah, that is true, but also they know that they're going to win the Premier League in a few years. It's just going to happen. So but for us it's different, I feel, because we have no right to be here really. Yes, we've spent money, but we've spent money, again, as we've said previously, because we had to stay in the league, etc. And yeah, the way that we go in the Champions League would just give us that next platform. And yeah, there's a long way to go yet, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But yeah, long story short, I would say Champions League, although I'd take any of the offers, really.
Yeah, of course, I'd be ecstatic if we won a trophy. We're still in the FA Cup this year, of course, as well. We could win the FA Cup or the Conference League within the next 6 months or so. I would obviously love that. I just want to pick you up on something you said at the end there. You said that Villa have got no right to be doing what they're doing. Why is that? Why has any club got a right to be towards the top? Why couldn't Villa do that?
I say no, right. What I mean is we're competing against teams and clubs that have almost infinite resources. Chelsea spent £1 billion in 2 years. That's just mad. I know. And then they're saying, oh, but we need a striker now. What I'm trying to say is that competing against that, if it's done right, is impossible. Chelsea spent that much money and they don't get it right. That's on them. But to have those resources to then say in the summer, oh, we'll just spend another 200 million. Villa can't do that. We just can't. Yeah. It's impossible. Even with the Champions League, that's a bit of a stretch. Man United have got infinite resources. Chelsea got infinite resources. Tottenham, as I said previously, they're always going to be there. Newcastle are backed by the wealthiest owners in the world. Who else you got there? 5th place. Liverpool are always going to be up there. Man City, for God's sake, that's 6. And who's the 7th team that I've missed out? Arsenal. They were competing for the league last year and like a couple of points away. So for Villa to be where they are, it's mental. I know we're backed by incredible owners who have only done good things for the club, and we've got a fantastic manager. But as Emery says, he puts it in a different way by saying we're not contenders for the top 7. I can't take that seriously because we're good and we're, after 38 games, 3rd in the table or whatever. So we are contenders, of course we are. But what he's trying to say in another way is we should not be here by the resources that we've got, by the squad that we've got. Yes, it's good and it's going great, mainly because of Emery. What we have compared to other teams, it really is night and day, and we're trying to get to that level, but we are so far behind in terms of infrastructure and revenue streams and stuff like that. We are genuinely far behind. That's why we're saying Champions League, because that is what you need to get to that level. Winning the trophy is fantastic, but at the moment we're still seen as the, amongst the West Hams, amongst, maybe it's just us and West Ham to be fair, but I can't think of any of the teams at the moment.
Brighton.
Yeah, Brighton. They do it in a very different way. Their infrastructure is far less than ours, but they do it in a different way. Yeah, maybe Brighton kind of coupled in that group, aren't we? Because we're the level beneath the top 7 in terms of what we can do, for example, with what we've got, put it that way. So that's why don't want to say we're punching above our weight, because we have the players and we're proving that we're good enough. But those are the clubs should, I don't want to say blow us out of the water, but they have the infrastructure and stuff to do that. Chelsea should be competing with the league if they spend $2 billion. Newcastle should compete for the league because their owners are worth all the money in the world. Liverpool are there, Man City are there, Man United. They're not run well, but again, infinite resources. It's the level that Villa are competing at. They're competing against, bloody governments and countries. It's crazy. We're what we are, and the players that we have on the bench and stuff. Great, we can bring on Leon Bailey and Yuri Tielemans. But then you put it in perspective of what other clubs can do. Tottenham missing all their players, yet they still give us a great game and probably should have beat us. So it's just fantastic what we're doing, but there's such a long way to go. That's why it makes it all the more sweet that we're doing this. But it's all about kind of staying level-headed with it, because, for example, Man United, they've had a bad season, but they're a couple of points behind us or something. It's never bad. It's never too bad for these clubs. It makes me laugh when Tottenham fans were like booing Levy and stuff last year in that stadium from what they've had. They've had Champions League football for years and years. Look at Everton now. Look at where Villa were. It's mad. Be careful what you wish for. Those clubs are now consolidated top 7 as in infrastructure for years and years and years. And no one's going to break that unless Villa can get Champions League and continue to push the way that they're going. And it could be, as Villa put it, a great 8. That's their thing. instead of a big 6. They want to be part of an 8. I don't know what the question was, but that's the kind of that's where we are.
Your reasoning is fair. I think that was just the way you worded it was wrong. I don't like the idea that a club's spending a lot of money, so they have a right to be up there. You play football on the pitch.
Yeah, you weren't that right.
If you spend money, doesn't give you the right to be in the top 4 because you've got to put that squad together with a good manager and get them ticking. And that's what Emery's been able to do with players that are already here. He's not had £1 billion to spend. He hasn't had to spend a fortune to get Villa competing. That also doesn't give Villa the right to be better than anyone else. You play 38 games against the teams around you and you finish where you finish. And that happens every single season. And I get that you're competing with states and whatever else, and that's obviously going to be very difficult to compete against, but they still have to put it right on the pitch as well. And that's also not easy or a God-given right that you just have to be at the top because you've got the most money. It's
a point that Villa, to get continual success, I'm talking, after Emery's gone, for example, Tottenham will still be up there, Newcastle will still be up there, all those teams will be up there. Those 7 teams will always be capable of next season pushing for Champions League, put it that way. For example, Chelsea next season could get in the Champions League, and there's no debate about that. Could Crystal Palace do it, who are in the same position as Chelsea? No. But Villa, to be in those conversations year after year after year, need to have access to those revenue streams and need to have access to that infrastructure and whatever else may follow. So that's the important thing at the moment. We are beneath those clubs by quite a considerable margin, by revenue streams, etc. And ultimately, money is what earns. Wolves had it good for a few seasons. So did Leicester.
Yeah,
of course, when they won the league. Leicester are now in the Championship. Wolves have been battling relegation. West Ham had a bad season last season, and I feel like they can make it better because they're in London and they've been in the league for a while. But you know what? The point I'm trying to make of some clubs can have one bad season, but then they'll be right up there the next year. If Villa have a bad season, there's no given right that they'll be there the year after. Whereas that's where we want to be. I know I'm wording it not very well, but I think we want to be part of that 8. And at the moment, we're not, but we can be. And that's the kind of point I'm trying to make.
We are on the pitch at the moment because we're better than some of those 8. But as you say, if Villa had a bad year, they haven't got the ability to go and spend 500 million to fix it. Whereas Newcastle could if they wanted to.
Exactly. Or for example, when Emery goes, which could be 5 years, 10 years, I don't know, whenever it may be, that replacing that and going after that would be very much more difficult if we don't have access to infrastructure and revenue streams of those other clubs. For example, if Eddie Howe loses 5 on the bounce, Newcastle replace him, and then they continue on their climb. Chelsea, if they replace their manager and spent more money, at some point it's going to probably work, right? And same as Man United, whoever it may be. Those clubs never have it bad for long. They really don't. Other teams who can't just bounce back straight away, they need other things, and Villa will hope to, as I say, be in that conversation under Emery, and that's his role at the club, basically, to make us into one of those elite teams.
Yeah, let's move on. A stat from AVFC Stato: Aston Villa have earned 77 points in Unai Emery's first 38 games in charge, having just won only 44 points in their previous 38 games in the Premier League, which is unbelievable. Pretty much doubled Villa's output over the course of a season. Radioactive Duck, brilliant name, said, it's 6 games until we've played everybody once. That's Bournemouth, Brentford, Man United, City, Arsenal and Sheffield United. How many points are you expecting from those 6 games? We said earlier we'd look slightly further ahead, and I meant those 6 games rather than you talking about post-Emery 10 years down the line a couple of minutes ago. As part of that question, we're just going to have a very quick look at the league table. Change the background to get the league table up then very quickly. It's the first time we've done this by displaying the league table from the Premier League website. Aston Villa now in the top 4 with 28 points. I mean, no Villa fan won't have been looking at this over the last 24 hours or so. This won't be news to anybody. 2 points clear of Spurs, which again, as we said before, Spurs beat us yesterday, which they very easily could. Spurs are now on 29 points and Villa are on 25, and you kind of go, well, there's a bit of a gap now to the top 4 in the other way. Villa have got a 4-point gap on Manchester United, a 5-point gap on Newcastle, and a 6-point gap on Brighton. I'm only reading this out, by the way, for the people that are just listening. Obviously, I'm only reading what people can see here. Level on points with Liverpool, 1 point behind Manchester City, and 2 points behind top of the league, Arsenal. John, are Villa in the title race? Yes or no?
Oh, God. I'm answering it as of Monday, the 27th of November, and I'll say no at the moment because there's just no. God, you're horrible. You are. There's no. Because it's just so. I know I'll get hate for it probably. The next 6, I said weeks ago, I only look at the table really after the first 19 games. Villa haven't played the top 2 teams in the league yet. And I'm not even like talking about the title race. I'm just talking where will we be after those games. If we win them both, we beat Bournemouth, we get points elsewhere as well in those next 6 games. We'll probably be top of the league after 19 games, top by Christmas maybe. And I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, well, God, yeah, talk about it because we're there after 19 games, and
I love that
all the evidence is
excellent.
Sorry, all the evidence is there. You should have seen me yesterday during the game. All the evidence is there then, but we're 6 games beneath that. How many points is that? What's 6 times 3?
18.
There's 18 points to play for before I really want to look at the table and take it in. That's so many points. And yeah, we played the top teams, Arsenal and Man City. We obviously then play them away in the next half of next season, which is going to be very tough. So we play them 4 times in terms of them both. God, it's so obvious. Great insight. We're in the top 4 at the moment. We'll just see what happens. I know that's not the answer you want. You probably want to clip me up saying, yeah, we're in a title race and this is going to happen. And yeah, we might be if we get good results in the next 6 games. And even then, I'm going to say, well, no, because we've got 19 games left to play. And what's going to happen in the Conference League when we play in the knockouts? And what will happen to the pressure? And these players have never even done that before, let alone going for the Champions League. So, mate, I'm still looking at that top 5. That's my aim. I said a few weeks ago I'd take 6th, and I'm not moving away from that necessarily. I want to get Champions League football because we've just ranted about it's so important for a football club to get to that level. So I'm still looking at Newcastle and Man United. Can we finish above both of those, or Newcastle and Tottenham? Those are the 2 teams. Like, I'm not really looking at 4th. I'm looking at, well, what's the gap between us and Newcastle, between us and Man United? Have we extended that gap this weekend? And we haven't, but we've maintained it. And Man City play Tottenham next, and Manchester United play Newcastle next. So if we can beat Bournemouth, we're gaining points in the top 6, top 7 race argument, whatever it may be. But that's my thing. We need to finish above 2 of those 3 teams: Tottenham, Man United, Newcastle, and we got Champions League football. That's my goal. Talking about title talk and stuff is not something I'll be entertaining unless we do something wild in the next couple of weeks.
Calling me horrible for asking about the title. Of course, title race. I put the question yesterday on Twitter. I just put title race ? And a few people were like, yeah, why not? Like, we're 2 points off the top. We're 1 win away if results go away from being top. We're an Ollie Watkins goal in the last minute of Wolves from being top. We're 1 win away from being top. So
if Villa were tough on the final, if Villa were tough on the final day of the season, even if we were and we were top by 2 points, you'd still think, "Oh, we'll blow that." So we're talking about it after the 13 games. It's ludicrous.
I know. Of course, I've put in a secondary tweet. Obviously not, by the way. And people are like, "Well, why not?" But yeah, obviously Villa aren't in the title race. Man City are going to win the league. They'll get to a point. Yes, they'll drop points at the moment, and maybe they'll drop points at Villa Park in next week. But they'll go to a stage where John Stones come back, they win 15 games in a row, and they win the league. That's what they always do, right? So they'll do that in the second half of the season. There is a case to say that, and I said this last week, and I will stand by it, 2nd to 7th, I genuinely think the clubs there could finish in any order.
Yeah, I think based on what we're seeing, I'd just put it as the top 3 will be in the top 5, put it that way. Like Arsenal, Liverpool and Man City will probably be the top 3, I think, because Liverpool go toe-to-toe with Man City the weekend, didn't they? And they look good. But I get your point. I just think those 3 teams are there, and it's between us, Tottenham, Newcastle, Man United, and
for 4th.
I don't think so. For 4th and 5th, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Which is great. I'm buzzing for that. Let's give it a go.
Yeah, the 2023 table is Man City at the top with 82 points, Arsenal 2nd with 71 points, Villa 3rd with 71 points. We're only 3rd by goal difference, which is by Arsenal scoring 10 more goals than us. We've conceded exactly the same amount. We've won more games than Arsenal with 1. They've drawn 3 more games than us. We're ahead of Liverpool by 4 points. We're ahead of Man United by 4 points. We're ahead of Newcastle by 11 points. And as we said, they beat us earlier in the season. Liverpool beat us earlier in the season. Yeah, title race, of course, sounds ridiculous, but we talk about that next 6 games, 18 points available. If Villa get 10 points from 18, again, I'm not saying that's enough to be in the title race, but it's certainly bloody enough to be around this top 4 conversation still. And if we're at the halfway point of the season and Villa are still 4th or 5th, yeah, we're well in it.
Sorry to annoy you. Who have we got in the next 6 again?
For context of how it goes, I will include the European games. So the next 6 Premier League games with the European games dotted in is Legia Warsaw first, then Bournemouth away, Man City at home and Arsenal at home in the space of a week, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. Then you've got a Thursday game against Zwinski Mostar away from home, where Villa will hopefully have already topped the group and we can have that as a bit of a rest. Then you come back on the Sunday for Brentford away, Sheffield United at Villa Park on the following Friday. So this is the 22nd of December. You got Man United at Old Trafford on Boxing Day, an 8 o'clock kickoff. And then you've got Burnley at Villa Park on Saturday, the 30th of December.
Burnley and Sheffield United, you'll win. Yeah. I must say, those away games fill me with a bit of dread. Brentford away is hard, very difficult game. Very, very difficult game. A game that I'd probably just take a point in. Man United away is always difficult. Old Trafford, their record is just very good. You know, we say we're good at home, which we are with them very well. 13 home wins in a row, etc. But United regularly post runs of winning 6 or 7 in a row, usually. So at Old Trafford, you very rarely get much. And Bournemouth away, I just think is a bit of a banana skin. That's going to be tough next weekend. And Villa again are going to have to prove something. So I'm almost thinking if we win one of those, that wouldn't even be that bad. But then you look at Man City at home, Arsenal at home. If you win one of those, that wouldn't be bad. So I do think wins will be difficult to come by in the next month or so. I do. There's nothing against Villa. Villa are an exceptional team, but they're very difficult games. If you beat Bournemouth, then brilliant. But then Arsenal, Man City, win one of those, winning one would just be great. So there's 2. But then Brentford away is very difficult. Man United away is very difficult. And then obviously you got to win Burnley and Sheffield United. But over the course of that, I think Villa would definitely sustain the top 7. Of course they would. But yeah, to be in the top 4, top 5 after that run, I think that would be very, very encouraging.
It's the busy festive period, isn't it, where other teams will also drop points where you don't expect them to. Like I've just picked Newcastle, for example, here. Obviously, when we're talking about the Europa Conference League games dropped in, they've got Champions League games dropped in against PSG and Milan. They've got Man United, Everton, Tottenham, Fulham, Luton, Forest, Liverpool on New Year's Day. So, maybe Newcastle drop some points there.
All the teams will drop points. It's just sustaining it over the season. Villa don't have to have a magnificent December when they pull even further away from Newcastle. It's just sustaining it. Yeah. And then you come to February, March, April. March and April, that time where we're also competing in the Conference League. That's when, as I said before, Villa will be tested, and it will be a case of, right, this is the I don't know, 10, 12 last games of the season, whatever it may be. Go for it. And that's what it is. I've said before, I don't doubt Villa will be in the top 6, top 5, that sort of position. We'll be near Champions League football come those months, I think, unless we, have a bad January or something and we get injuries. I don't know. But I don't doubt we'll be there. It's just how we react to the end of the season. Those last 10 games, the last few months of the campaign, that will be the difference, I think. Juggling with the Conference League, how much we want to win that compared to Champions League, that sort of thing. I think that will be the test for us this season. Villa will deserve to be where they finish at the end of the season, and I think that will be about 5th or 6th. You just hope it's edging towards 5th.
Again, it's like the perception we said before Spurs, that we said 4 points from Spurs and Bournemouth, and if that was a point at Spurs and you beat Bournemouth, you go, okay, that's fine. Yeah. But because you beat Spurs, if you draw to Bournemouth now, you think, oh, that's disappointing. But it's the same points return that we'd have been happy with if the results were flipped. So there's now probably more expectation that we should be beating Bournemouth away because we beat Spurs away. But we know football doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. But the fact that we're even having these conversations about title races or the top 4 even, let alone the top 5, and winning 6 out of 9 games or whatever it is, shows how far we've come and how exciting this whole period is for everyone involved. John, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Thanks for everyone for your comments and your questions earlier in the show. We'll be back later in the week for the Europa Conference League game against Legia Warsaw, where we'll do a post-match show either late Thursday night or Friday morning, which will also be a preview for Bournemouth as well. So stay tuned to Claret and Blue. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, John, for your time, and we'll see you soon.